Okay, so that said, I'm very excited to introduce you to Michelle. Michelle is the teacher and founder of the Clarity Room. She believes in the power of understanding one's unique blueprints to cultivate empowerment, elevate daily living, and create fulfilling career and life. Michelle integrates a variety of effective modalities, but her favorite is human design. As a passionate advocate for self-discovery, she helps individuals unlock the power within themselves. Through her work, Michelle empowers others to embrace their path with confidence, helping them step fully into their unapologetic power in their careers, relationships, and spiritual growth. And I'd love to hand it over to you. Thank you, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's very kind. Let's get started. The first thing I want to do, it's not in my presentation, but I'm going to show you because if you grab the chart off of my website, this is the first thing I would love for everyone to share for me. So, excuse me, I did a picture and it doesn't look right, but here's what your chart looks like if you got it off of my site. And this is for my benefit. This isn't about everything I'm going to be talking about today, but tell me in here, you're going to come down to the part that says type. Do you see where it says type? I have a funny feeling we have a few manifesting generators in here. Can you type in the comments what yours is, whatever comes after that? So you see mine is generator. Just let me know that in the conversation, please. And then let me get out and get into the presentation here. Present. Here we go. I have a new computer and I'm still learning her. Okay, there we go.
I will save you having to go open back to the chat and let you know we've got three manifesting generators and a generator in the chat.
Very cool. That's what I figured. When people were talking, I knew Michelle. Michelle has to be a Manny Gen. Is that true? Yep, she's a manifesting. Kimberly, yes. Connie, you're a generator. Okay. Yeah. Okay, great, awesome. And I know Rebecca is a projector, so we can just say that really quick because she's busy. Okay, so today we're really going to work working through self-doubt, self-worth, all those things that kind of come together. And as a lot of you knowing, and I love coming into this community of teachers. I come from a long line of teachers. I actually studied to become a special ed teacher and then popped out and became a social worker instead at the very last second. But my sister, my mother-in-law, and two of my nieces are educators. So I have a finite affinity for you all and what you've done and that you're walking. Some of you are getting ready to walk away or have walked away because one of the big things I think we all discover when we go into our own business or entrepreneurship is this idea of like, holy cow, I didn't realize I had to work so much on myself. As I'm stepping into selling myself instead of going to a job and having everything kind of lined up for me to a finite degree. So I'm excited. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, and it's really talking a little bit more about the divine feminine and through the eyes of human design. So let's get started. Woo. Listen, I'm also a person that you got questions at any point in time, throw them into the chat or unmute yourself. We're a small group, and I'll be happy to share anything. So just a little bit about me really quick. Let me put you guys over here. So, I love to fly. I am myself a 4-1 emotional generator, and I love to fly. I love it so much that for a short period of time, about a year and a half, I did exit social work and sales and became a flight attendant. Um, Decided that I like to fly instead of work it. So that's what we learned from that experience. But I was still coaching when I was in the sky. So there you go. I'm an avid pickleball player. These are my favorite things to watch. Twister, Stranger Things, and any docuseries on cults. Obviously with my degree in psychology, I love to study human behavior. That's all I like to dive into is the deeper understanding of how our mind works and how things happen to certain people and not to other people. It's fascinating to me. I'm a mother of a reflector and a Manny Gen. If you happen to know a lot about human design, that might mean something to you. If not, that's okay. You can skip over it. I've been decoding my life with my husband for almost 30 years in May. He's a Manny Gen. I'm obsessed with human design astrology. I am an intuitive, and yeah, I already talked about being a former social worker, which was the toughest job on the planet. And I worked very closely with a lot of the school systems at that point in time in Michigan when I lived there. And yeah, worked probably the toughest job of my life was there and learned a lot about human behavior. So Today, what are we going to be doing? We're really going to be transmuting some self-doubt because, like I said before, it's really difficult when you start doing your own business in some aspects of really learning more about self to feel confident, to show up for yourself, to know what your pricing is, to know like where is my value and how do I feel about it all today. So in our time together, we're going to journey through that through the eyes of human design, and we're going to talk about specifically how you can utilize it the best way that it shows up in your chart, and that'll make more sense as we go on today. Oh, there was my blank one. Okay. Looking at self-doubt. God, I love this picture. Looking at self-doubt and worthlessness differently. So, in truth, to me, when we hit moments of self-doubt, because we all do it, right? We're in this human body, having this human experience, going through the age of Aquarius, which is like, wow, everybody is like learning who they are as an individual and not going along always with the collective. And that's why we're seeing in human design, we have this deeper understanding that by 2050, over 53% of the population will be self-employed. So you're kind of on the forefront of something that many, many other people are going to be doing themselves. And so, one of the things that I've had to work through for myself is that self-doubt is really, when I hit those moments of self-doubt, it's really my inner self saying, it's time to grow again. It's time to look at things a little differently. Um, but in order to catch that, we have to become aware of the self-doubt. We have to become aware of why we're faltering in something or we feel like we're tripping over something. And so we're going to talk about that today through a quick story of myself. So I had probably one of the most profound experiences with self-doubt back in 2006. Many of you know Tony Robbins here. And I actually went to the program that he is promoting. It's still going on. I didn't know that. I actually had to look it up. The Unleash the Power Within back in 2006, I went to it. And I love Tony Robbins and I love his message, but back then it was definitely more about stacking productivity. And it was about, working through some of your own self-doubt. And it's a very, very, very rah-rah experience. And so what happened for me was, listen, I'm a generator and you don't need to know this. I'm just going to explain this very quick. All of you on this call, except for Rebecca, we are all what we call generator types, which means that if we're doing something what we're passionate about, it gives us energy, which means we're pretty great at getting tasks done at times. So I don't have a problem getting things done. But what happened to me is when I left Tony Robbins, the rah-rah, the 4 days, came back, um, and within about a month's time, my self-doubt became the loudest voice in my head because I was away from his energy. And I didn't understand that, stacking productivity, which I was already doing. Like I was a mother of two young kids. I had my business at that point, I was in sales. I was building up my own private business on top of it, and a husband and a dog, and all the things that many of you are going through or have gone through yourself. So I didn't have a hard time getting things done. But what happened for me is that I couldn't keep up with what he trained me in that program that I should be doing. And so what ended up happening for me is I shut down everything. I shut down my other business. I actually had two side businesses at that time. I shut them all down because I felt so overwhelmed that I couldn't do it. Who the heck do I think I am? I'm not Tony Robbins. I can't keep up with this rah-rah stuff. I can't keep doing the working out while doing phone calls. And by the way, I love him, but you're going to understand more by the end of it why this crash happened for me. And I think it's really important for all of us to really start to identify each person as an individual. So for me, it didn't work. Like I made incredible friendships that I still have today. And I changed a lot of things in my life, but that part really bombed me out. So here's the invitation that I would love for you guys to go ahead and put into the chat. One was, do you have a time in your life where the word ran shouldn't be there. Sorry. Do you have a time in your life where self-doubt should be in there, was rampant in your life? Have you ever had that self-doubt arise as you're starting your own business? And if so, what stories did you tell yourself? So for me, for my example was, I can't keep up. So who do I think I am that I could actually do all the things I wanted to do plus run this business successfully? That was what was running in my head. You can't do it. You can't do it. You're overwhelmed. You're exhausted. Like, who do you think you are? And probably the loudest voice for me was, who do you think you are, Michelle? You've got all these other responsibilities. Who do you think you are? So Let me just see if any. So if you can put in your chat if you've ever experienced that, maybe you're going through something now. I mean, this is something that we never 100% ever, you know, I think anybody who says that they have confidence all the time, good for them. But I really do believe that there is a purpose for it to arrive. And instead of like beating ourselves up about it, just getting cognizant of like, so, what is the story I'm telling myself right now? Why do I feel like I'm not worthy of this? Why do I feel like I've got this pressure to be perfect in this, or I can't take breaks? All of those verbiages might come out. So, if anybody has anything they want to put, that's awesome. But one of the things I do love is you're figuring that out for yourself is that human design is the key to transmuting self-doubt because it shows you exactly how you're designed to thrive. It isn't me coming in to tell you how you're supposed to thrive. We're looking at your blueprint. I'm reading your blueprint so I can help support you to thrive in the way that it's going to look for you. And I think it's one of the biggest things that all of us, especially as women, are coming up against right now these days is that at least in my generation, I'm in my 50s now, is that, when I got into, stepped away from my family because I wanted to have a career for myself, I had to become my more masculine self. I had to step into that in order to be accepted, especially when it came to sales. I was the only female that had ever been hired from this high-end fabric company. That's who I worked for. It was called Durley Fabrics and a very coveted job and made extremely great money in it. But I was the only female, so I had to take on the masculine. I learned how to play the game, and we all do, right? I have to be this person. Now, sometimes because of what you guys are coming out of, which is education, that may not have been your story, but that was definitely my story coming into it. Let me see the stories right here. Okay, let's see. Voices in my head said that the only thing I was capable of doing, it was the only job I was qualified for. Yes, the qualification story. That's a big one we have. Passed away in 2017. I hope, yeah, entrepreneur. I should just go back to higher ed. Yeah, it's almost like the safety net, right? Like, this is what I know. I'm just going to keep at this. This is too much work. Who do I think I am? I love it, you guys. Those are really good. When I left high-level corporate and became a stay-home mom, the structure of my day. Oh, girl, you've probably got gate 15 or 5 in your human design chart, Michelle. Yeah, that's a big one. When I see that when somebody's popping out of corporate and going into their own personal thing, if I see a certain couple, there's a certain gates in your chart that tell me this person's really going to struggle with the 9 to 5. I was one of those people. I had to be busy when I started my own, when I finally left corporate and I just did this for a living. I had to be busy from 8 until 5, even if I had no clients on my docket at the beginning, right? At the beginnings when we're all like, where's the next client coming from? I had to be busy because if I wasn't busy, my mind was then really chattering even more about self-doubt, self-doubt, self-doubt. But as soon as 5 o'clock came, I'm like, oh my God, I'm free. I can walk away. So I truly can appreciate that. I was help leading training. The leader of the group was not friendly to me. Proposal. Yes. The rejection, the feeling of rejection that we all can have from somebody else who we're looking up to kind of help us through all that. Ah, oh my gosh, you guys, I love you guys. Great stories. Like seriously, great stories. This is going to be juicy. Okay. So now I want you to pull out your human design chart because it's literally just one area I want you to look at. And what the area is this little triangle here. You're going to see a triangle. Yours is either going to be white or it's going to be colored in. It's the smallest triangle. These are just two examples. If it's colored in over here, it doesn't matter what color it is, as long as it has a color behind it. If it is just completely white, then you're undefined. So tell me in the chat if yours is undefined or white. This is called the ego center. Or if this area right here is colored in, if it's defined or colored. And I'm not talking about the numbers being colored in. I'm literally talking about the center. And if anybody has any questions, let me know. Let me go in the chat and see what we've got here. Yep, I knew Connie's would be defined. I love this. Undefined, Michelle's is defined. Ooh, good. Okay, so we've got 2 defined so far and 1 undefined. All right, and let's see. Undefined is Rebecca. Fuchsia. Okay, so yours is defined then, Kimberly. Yes? Yes, it's called, okay. Okay, can I tell you out of all the times I've ever presented this, I've never had as many defined centers. I know, it's what I knew Rebecca would say it. Rebecca knows human design very well. Okay, this is really exciting. Okay, um, so what this particular center, let's just wipe out whether it's defined or not. What this center represents when I'm looking at it is somebody's self-worth, your willpower, and your and commitment. And it governs your sense of value, motivation, and the ability to make promises that we can keep. It's part of our materialism being in this human suit, right? So, let me get back to my notes. I have a tendency to go away from my notes and I got to come back. Okay. So, I'm first going to talk about, um, I'm going to talk about each one of these and how they're coming through for you possibly in your business or in your personal life, right? Um, uh, and what we're going to go through is we're going to go through what the challenges are, whether you're defined or undefined, what your natural strengths are, and then your work throughs, which would be things that you might be conditioned in thinking differently about yourself, which happens to everybody no matter what it is. But we're really just going to focus primarily, all we're focusing on is that ego center. So this is about your emotions, this is about your self-worth, how you feel about yourself, if you ever doubt yourself. It has to do with motivation, it has to do with materialism. So I'm going to start with undefined. And I normally do that because an undefined ego center, which means it's white, is typically 70% of the population. That's why I am shook that there's so many of you here that are defined. Literally never had this happen before, which again also kind of tells me something just as a human design practitioner, that teachers who are wanting to leave their current thing, that it could be easier for you all to do it when you're defined. That's going to be interesting to kind of populate in my head while we go on. So, in truth, if you have this undefined, you really are going to waver in what you're feeling about yourself on the daily. Like you could wake up one day and say, I'm worthy of making $1 million, and you will feel so confident about it. And then the next day you come back into your office and you'll look at what you wrote up and what you were charging for something, and you'll be like, who do I think I am right now? This is absolutely batshit crazy. So these are the challenges for people, and it's beautiful to learn the opposite of you. The person who's defined is listening to the undefined, because you're going to hear other people that you know, and you're like, oh my God, I bet you that's why so and so is doing this. Because it's really about this idea. If you have somebody who's always doubting themselves, always feeling like they have to prove themselves, a lot of the times, if you're undefined, some of your challenge is going to feel like getting really comfortable in an uncomfortable setting of claiming your own worth. Um, and I will say this, that you're here to be really fluid. You're here um, to really kind of find your tribe and find your container if you're undivided, which I love because Lizzie, you've kind of found your container. You're undefined, right? Like looking for other teachers who are maybe going through the experience that you went through and taking on societal beliefs about success. Because in truth, you're here to trust your unique pathway. All of us are, but especially if you have this area undefined. So some of your strengths, if you have this undefined, would be that you can actually sense other people around you and what they value. So if you're undefined and you're working with client one-on-one, or you've got a couple people in the room, you are going to be able to once you get good about this, right? Like once you understand that this is probably what you're sensing, is you can sense from other people, ooh, this person really is feeling uncomfortable about their money, or they're not really confident in what they're doing. This becomes an asset for you in whatever you're doing, because then you can learn to use these words to them so that they can feel it. Because and in truth, anything that's white in your human design is means that it's amplified for you. When you're around other people, what they're experiencing, you feel it, but you feel it very amplified. But when you're by yourself, you kind of waver in that energy for yourself. Actually, somebody who has this undefined, you're really actually a great guide, a coach, a mentor, and it becomes more important that you align yourself with your passion than anything else, because when you're leading by your passion in what it is that you want to show up into the world is when things really begin to populate for you financially within all of it. So some of the things that you have to work through is a lot of people have this undefined. Not only do you kind of struggle with your self-worth, but you will overwork yourself or you'll overgive. Like, more than not, yeah, everybody's shaking their head. Yeah, somebody will say, "Well, can you do this?" You're like, "Oh, sure, sure, sure." Or, "Can I extend this?" Or, can you help me with this even if their contract is up with you?" Or whatever it might be. You can overwork. And by the way, that's a beautiful thing about you. So don't take that as that's a bad thing. But it is a thing that you have to start to ask yourself, do I have the energy to do it? Because you're somebody who's going to push your willpower. If this is undefined, your willpower is not there on a consistent basis. So it means that you have to learn to embrace your alignment. And it also tells me that your pricing of whatever it is that you're offering in your business, you might need some support in knowing what the true price is for yourself. I find more than not people who are undefined at the beginning of their businesses undercharge. For some of you that may be regulated, I don't know. But understanding what you're giving to the product line. And then what will happen is you'll settle on a price, you'll start to sell on that price, and then you'll feel the confidence. It doesn't mean that the confidence is never there. It's there, but it takes you a little while to get that built up for yourself. Okay, getting some nods. Love that. And the other part of it is that you need to also understand that there's going to be times where you're going to have a pause, and you need to learn that rest is an action for you, and that you're not your worth is not measured by what you do, it's in who you are, because you actually are amplifying that to everybody that you're working with, if that makes sense. So I find that for me for me professionally, because this one is undefined for myself, so I really can identify that with everybody, is I've had to find people who I really trust that weren't going to blow smoke up my hiney, that weren't going to say, "Oh yeah, you're worth that." Like, no, no, no. Like, can you really take a look at what I'm doing and what I'm offering and if the pricing is correct on it? And then I have to believe in them, because I will the next day come in and want to refigure things. It took me years to figure that for myself. I didn't realize that. And I used to beat myself up about it. Like, who am I? Like, why is it that I can't be consistent on this? Should I even be an entrepreneur because I can't be consistent on this? These are all the talks that as an undefined person you have. And I'm here to tell you that you are here to do it, and that you can actually be a benefit for other people and helping them to regulate that. So overworking yourself is going to be a big thing within within this undefined. Um, okay. So let's flip. I'm going to come back to the undefined a little bit, but let's give defined a little bit of information. So you guys have a different way of dealing with your definedness. You guys actually, some of your challenges are that you guys are going to feel pressure to always perform at a high level. And I'm seeing some nods in that too. Yep, you are always going to feel that pressure. And I find that people who are defined have a tendency to really beat themselves up if they do want to take a break. It's kind of the same thing for undefined, but yours is, ooh, is someone going to get ahead of me? Like, there's a serious sense of competition if you have this area defined. You also might be a challenge of, like, you've been told you're too much. Like, oh, come on, like, really? Or what you expect in your business and how much money you want to be making. You can be told, like, no, 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 you can't do that. That's like you're getting greedy. A lot of people with defined centers will hear that, like, I'm really greedy. Now, if you're not one of these people, I'm going to tell you right now, if you are defined and none of these challenges are hitting you, please know that you are probably had a parent or a guardian who had it undefined and you're operating that way, and that becomes the deconditioning that we have to work through. But some of your other struggles might be allowing rest because you are really steeped in your achievements. And I was working with a realtor just recently. She became a new client, and she wanted to break out and get into $1 million. She'd been in figures for years. And one of the comments that she had told me was that her husband came to her and said, "When is enough enough?" And she looked at him and she said, "It will never be enough." And I looked at her and I said, "Bravo," because that's exactly how you're here to function. And she just started crying. She says, "Oh my God, you see me." And she goes, you don't have judgment over that? I'm like, no, I don't have judgment over that. You're defined. You're here to push the edges of the envelope of even, what you are doing, what you are achieving, how much money you want to make. Like you are the person who makes that 4 minute mile. Remember when nobody could beat it? And then the gentleman came in and beat it, and then everybody fouled up. Yep, you're the person who can do that. Competition, you do have a strong sense of willpower that can tip it. And what I find is a lot of the times too, if this is defined and none of this seems like you, women have a tendency to shut this area of themselves down or feel more masculine in their energy. And so sometimes we have a little bit of mumbo jumbo in our heads about that. Your strengths are you have strong willpower. What I find is people who are defined, my best friend is like this. She'll start a workout regimen. She'll do it for a freaking year. And then all of a sudden I'll say, well, how's your running going? She'll, I don't do that anymore. And I'm like, for me, I'm panicking. Like, what do you mean you don't do it anymore? And she's like, nah, I gave myself a break. Like she's in alignment with her defined center. And she'll say, no, no, I don't need anything right now. And then I'll talk to the next day. She says, oh, I'm totally into Pilates right now. So she knows and she trusts that willpower because it's consistent for her. She knows when it is time to push forward on something and when to take a break if you're in alignment with the rest of your design. Confidence in your abilities and in your decisions. You guys don't really have to waver on that. You're like, nope, that's right for me. I love that. And you just have this natural drive to succeed with all of that. Is this making sense? Can I get yeses, nos? Yes. Okay, very cool. And then the other defined, your work throughs. Like I told you about, is it ever enough? It may not ever be enough for you. And I think part of being competitive to me, being a healthy competitive person means that you're being more competitive with yourself than other people. And I see that that's what the change is as we're walking more into a feminine based entrepreneurship. Like people are starting to let go of the masculine, like you're my competition, you're my competition. Typically women are about, hey, you're not my competition because I couldn't do what I do for everybody on the planet, nor do I want to. Let's form a community. We're more community sense. So a healthy competition would be, are you being just competitive with yourself, or can you become the observer of when you are being competitive, see what the other person is showing that you don't have? That's healthy. That's being healthy in a competitive field. Seeing what's, oh, somebody else is doing that. And instead of saying, oh, I should do that or they shouldn't do that, say, I see what they're doing. Do I need that or not? You can do that if you're a defined center. Another work through sometimes is playing small, and you're worried about what other people are going to think about you, or what statements or comments or the judgments, right? I think all of us as small business owners have that chatter going on in ourselves. But for you guys, it's a little bit more about I'm scared to show up so big and bold because what are people going to say about me? Some of these work throughs may not be true for you. These are just the roundabouts I've seen, and over the years I've coached people. And then healing your too much scenario. Yeah, if you're feeling that way in any aspect of your life as you're a defined ego center, that's a ding 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 red light for me. Like you need to really focus in on nobody is too much, right? And that although, and especially because you're a female, sometimes people may tell you that that's something that we could like focus in on it. Okay, so let me go back because this is going to give you kind of a better overall understanding. So, why did I have a meltdown when I left Tony's aura? So, first and foremost, I am undefined. Not only am I undefined, there's no numbers colored in it. So, it's actually called open, which means I am even more hypersensitive to self-worth and willpower than your average bear. Tony Robbins' center is filled in. So, when I'm with him, I receive that energy and it's magnified for me. And that's why when I left, I was in this auric bubble and I was like, I can do it all and I'm invincible and I can do it. And then when my crash hit, I mean, it was a depressive mode. And it was like, I can't do this. Who do I think I am? So as a coach, it's really important for me as I'm working with people to make sure that I am not, whatever I'm defined in, that I'm not pushing that onto you. That I need to know who my audience is. Because if they keep failing after they leave me, right, I'm doing something wrong as a coach because it's not energy that they can have when I'm not around them. And so, of course, he's going to be coaching from his rah rah. That's who he is. But for me, had I known that my rah-rah was going to just be caused by this idea that I am not supposed to push through, I am not supposed to overgive, I am supposed to have breaks, I am going to be that person who can sense what other people are. So when I'm with somebody who really, really wants to make a lot of money, I can feel that from them so intensely and it reverberates through me. So if you're undefined and you walk into a room with somebody who's defined, right, you're going to feel it from them. You're like, ooh, that person's got big energy. And then that self-doubt might creep in. So you have to be cognizant of that. Where's my clicker? Okay. So let's talk about some strategies. Okay. So for the defined ego center, you need to really set realistic commitments that align with your energy. You got to give yourself some permission to not always be proving something to yourself. And you need to recognize that your drive is a gift, but rest is also productive, especially for you generator types, which is manifesting generators and generators. Y'all, like anytime there's a pause in your business, more than likely, y'all are trying to create something new, some new program, some new PDF. Oh, that's the thing I'm always having to pull you guys back in on and saying, let's just take a breath. Just because you're in a pause doesn't mean that your whole world is falling apart because you're used to doing, 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 right? So for the undefined, it's like let go of comparison because you're going to feel it from other people. So don't be comparing that you can keep up with somebody who's defined. It does not mean, by the way, if you're undefined, that you cannot make the money you want. It means that you need to put pauses in it and enjoy those pauses and know when you're feeling like, yep, now's the time to do it. Nope, I got to increase my prices or allow other people to tell you that. So after you've done whatever you've done as an entrepreneur, right? And you've gotten some more experience behind the belt. And if somebody ever says to you, I think it's time for you to raise your prices, do not poo-poo that. Ask them questions if you're undefined. What do you mean by that? Well, your prices are blah, blah, blah. Like you're giving much more. Have you broken down your hours per what you're charging? How many hours is that? Now, as a defined person, they're always like, oh, no, no, I got to make this kind of money if they're in alignment, right? I got to make this money. This is how long it's going to take. Boom, here's my pricing, right? And so your path is a lot different if it's undefined. Charged on the base of your value that you bring, not how much you do. So huge for an undefined person and leaning into your gifts and recognition of your self-worth and others. And sometimes that leaning means having that person that you're really, really dependent upon. And if for you, for an ego, if your ego is defined, sometimes it's going to be that you got to lean in on somebody to tell you it's okay to want more. It's okay to want more. It's okay to push the edges of the envelope because most people are going to tell defined people, you're out of your mind. Who do you think you are that you can be doing this? And that becomes crunchy for you guys to work through. So, the defined ego, you might experience self doubt when you're not feeling like you're achieving enough. And for the undefined ego, self doubt often comes from trying to prove yourself to others instead of trusting your own unique gifts. Um, so to really talk about like looking at self-doubt and the worthlessness differently, and again, we come back to anytime now, either side is looking at self-doubt or somebody is making you feel crunchy about something. I want you to think of this silly little picture and ask yourself, ooh, I'm being challenged to grow right now. How do I need to grow? Do I need to grow in letting go of my limits of being so big? Or do I need to let go of the idea that I'm not enough and I can't charge what I need to charge? Because in that moment when you're having that, that's whatever you believe in is tapping you on your shoulders to say, it's time to take a look at this again. Because everybody, especially through the eyes of human design, everybody is worthy. Everybody is here to have financial success and find your passion and move it through so that you can live the lifestyle that you desire and that you need in this lifetime. And if you think about it, this is one, not even 1/16th. I don't know what would be smaller than that because I'm not a math person, but it's like this is just a small little sliver of you understanding you through the eyes of human design and not to be working in the way that everybody else tells you that you should be working for yourself. Um, So anyways, that's the presentation. Now I want to open up to questions because this is always the exciting part for me. It's like sometimes people have questions or comments or concerns or they don't understand something. So